Once again, I'm Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. Our people waked up on Sunday to a devastating and callous act by the terrorists. And that is the brutal killings of over 56 innocent citizens and abduction of women and children in Konkoso district of Borgu local government area of Niger State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to on this urgent national importance. I rise to move a motion of urgent national importance on the gruesome killing of over 56 innocent citizens and the abduction of several women and children in Konkoso district, Borgu local government area, in New Busa, Niger State. Aware that Konkoso district in Borgu local government area of Niger State recently came under coordinated terrorist attack, resulting in the brutal killing of over 56 innocents and defenseless Nigerians who were slaughtered, with several women and children abducted and taken into captivity. Observe that Borgu local government area shares strategic forested and riverine corridors with parts of Kwara State, creating vulnerabilities exploited by bandits and terrorist elements from cross-border criminal operations. Notes that the North Central region has increasingly witnessed organized attacks on rural communities, farmlands, and settlements, thereby threatening food security, local economies, and national stability. Recognizes that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies continue to make significant sacrifices in confronting terrorism, banditry, and insurgency across multiple theaters of operations nationwide. But concerned that the persistent pattern of attacks on remote communities indicate gaps in intelligence coordination, rapid response capability, and sustained territorial presence. Also note that the abduction of women and children deepens the humanitarian crisis and inflicts lasting trauma on affected families and communities. Recalls that without structural reforms and modernization of Nigerian security framework, such tragic incidents may continue to occur. The Senate commends the gallant officers and men of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and other security agencies for their courage, patriotism, and resilience. Appreciates His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, for his sustained commitment to strengthen Nigerian security architecture, and further acknowledges the leadership and proactive engagement of His Excellency the Governor of Niger State, Mohammed Umar Borgu of Niger State, and his counterpart from Kwara State, Governor Abdurrahman Razak, for fostering interstate collaboration and supporting coordinated efforts to restore peace and security in affected areas. Accordingly, the Senate resolves that 1, condemns in the strongest possible terms the barbaric killing of innocent citizens and the abduction of women and children in Konkoso district, Borgu local government area of Niger State. 2, observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased and extend heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims and to the government and people of Niger State. 3, urges the federal government to immediately deploy additional security personnel, enhance aerial surveillance, and rapid response within the Borgu local government area, especially the national park, the forest around the Kamuku forest, and the forest that is bordering Mashegu local government in Niger State and adjoining vulnerable communities. Senate should mandate the Senate Committees of Defense, Army, Air Force, Police Affairs, and National Security and Intelligence to conduct a joint assessment of the security situation in North Central because of the pattern of these attacks and report back within 4 weeks with clear and actionable recommendations. 5, call on the federal government to undertake a comprehensive restructuring and modernization of our forest security network, which should include the forest guards and the park rangers, existing park rangers. Enhance interagency intelligence sharing and unified operational command of the commands. Because something came up as the 23rd Battalion were mobilizing. They were asked to hold on because there is another Operation Shield that has been introduced. So the issue of responsibilities became a problem. Who is responsible for what? So there should be clear intelligence sharing. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, strengthening formal and formal integration of community policing structure under proper regulatory oversight has become a necessity. Then establishment of fortified forward operating bases in forested and riverine high-risk zones. Improve welfare packages, logistics, and equipment to support for security personnel at those war-torn areas. 6, urge the National Emergency Management Agency and other relevant agencies.
Distinguished colleague, we don't have your paper.
Yes, they are printing it now.
But as you go on, we'll lose track of the number of prayers.
No, I will bring the thing to you. Urge National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and other relevant agencies to provide urgent humanitarian relief materials, medical support, trauma counseling, and rehabilitation assistance to affected families. And finally, encourage strengthening joint security operations between Niger and Kwara states to dismantle cross-border terrorist networks operating within shared forest corridors. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the sanctity of human life is the foundation of any sovereign nation. The Senate must stand firmly with the people of Borgu and send a clear message that no community in Nigeria is forgotten and no act of terror will go unanswered. I so move, Mr. President.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Sulaiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, just last week, I brought a motion on the killings of persons in Waro. Like I said, this killing is still the same problem. The people in Borgu are the same people I represent. And aside these mass killings, there is regular killing that goes around in that area, in Patigi, in Edu. Almost every other day, we lose persons. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, like I said, the two fundamental problems facing us along that belt is the massive stretch of forest reserve that was originally designed to reserve animals and various trees and plants. But that forest has now become a sanctuary for criminals of various shades. My distinguished colleagues, if we don't take care of that forest and get these people out of there, this will be a recurring decimal. Aside the forest, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, when you go to that territory, Borgu, both in Niger State and in Kwara State, and indeed the whole of Kwara North in Kwara State, is a massive landmass with horrible road infrastructure. And this road infrastructure are basically federal government roads. So to help our people, aside clearing these criminals, we need to be able to make those roads accessible for purposes of response. And lastly, Mr. President, aside killing our people, the criminals are actually even using their farmlands and farm produce for whatever they want to use it for. So our people can't go to farm. The little farm they are able to carry out, they are not able to access the produce. So we are really in dire need in Borgu, both in Kwara and in Niger, and indeed in the whole of Kwara North. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rose up to contribute to this motion against the background of the fact that security is of the primacy of governance. And the only reason for the people to surrender their sovereignty to government is for government in return to protect their lives and property. And we are enjoying, as a representative of the people, to make the security and lives, the security of the lives and property of the people our primary assignment. So against this background, this motion is apt and germane, and I commend Senator Sani Musa for standing up for his responsibility as representative of his people to bring the plight of his people to the Senate with a view to soliciting for succor for the problem that is bedeviling his constituency. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the problem of insecurity cuts across the nooks and crannies of the country. And we have passed several resolutions to the effect that this problem of insecurity should be nipped in the bud. On various occasions, we had cause to increase the budget of the security sector so that they can discharge their constitutional responsibility without let or hindrance. To the effect that Mr. President has even declared a state of emergency on the security sector. But Mr. President, my own concern is, in the course of our budget defense and interaction with the various security apparatus, Mr. President, we discovered that when it came to capital allocation, zero capital was released for all these security agencies, whether it is the military or the Directorate of State Security Services and what have you. Mr. President, I think in line with the declaration of state of emergency that was declared by Mr. President, the security sector should be given a place of prominence, especially with regard to funding for the operation or the discharge of their constitutional responsibility. It is very sad for us to notice that there is zero allocation for the security sector. That should not be acceptable, and that is not in consonance with the state of the emergency declared by Mr. President. So place of prominence should be given to the security sector to our security architecture with regard to the issue of funding after appropriation has been made by the National Assembly so that they can discharge their constitutional responsibility. Mr. President, what we are doing, it seems like we are appropriating and reprobating at the same time. While we are saying we are declaring a state of emergency on the security subsector or the security sector, on the other hand, we are not funding them to discharge their constitutional responsibility. So that means we are speaking from both sides of the mouth. We are giving lip service to the issue of state of declaration of state of emergency. So we are urging the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Office of the Accountant General should prioritize funding to the security sector so that they can discharge their constitutional responsibility without let or hindrance. Thank you.